This year, I wrote over 100,000 words breaking down Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The result was Season 13 of Dissect, an 18-episode odyssey into every line of every song. Today's video distills all that I learned into a 15-minute masterclass on the album's essential themes, symbols, and narrative structure. By the end, you'll understand how and why Kendrick Lamar constructed Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers like a mirror, a reflection of his own story that ultimately becomes a reflection of ours. And so, without further ado, let's dissect. At the heart of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is the philosophy of spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle, who plays the role of Kendrick's therapist on the album. Tolle's teachings revolve around the shift from unconscious to conscious living. Unconscious life means living through the ego, constantly chasing validation, judging others, and replaying old pain. In this state, we are totally controlled by our past experiences and trauma, unconsciously repeating cycles of suffering, unaware of the underlying motivations that drive our behavior. Conscious life, by contrast, means living with presence and awareness, observing your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. It's stepping outside of the ego's endless need to compare and compete, living fully in the present moment rather than in the trauma of our past or the anxiety of our future. Tolle also argues that our individual struggles inevitably manifest in the collective. He writes that, quote, "The external state of the world is always a reflection of the internal state of the mind." In other words, war, injustice, and corruption are byproducts of living unconsciously through the ego. If we want to heal humanity, we have to begin by healing ourselves individually, awakening to the influences behind our behavior, and choosing to live more consciously and compassionately. Tolle's ideas of conscious and unconscious living and the link between the individual and the whole are key to understanding Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The title itself presents both ideas plainly. The Big Steppers represent unconscious humanity, still stuck in cycles of ego, big stepping around unhealed trauma. Mr. Morale represents the individual striving for awareness, compassion, and healing. Together, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is less of a dichotomy and more like a spectrum. Every person contains the potential for both Big Stepper and Mr. Morale. Upbringing, environmental conditioning, and trauma can push someone deeper into unconscious stepping, but the potential for awakening and healing remains within everyone, even the most unconscious person. These unconscious and conscious, individual, and the whole dualities are also built into the album's two-disc structure. The first disc, The Big Steppers, focuses more on the external world. Kendrick shows us humanity's dysfunction and admits his own contribution to it. The masks he wears, the ego he wrestles with, and the trauma he sidesteps. The second disc, Mr. Morale, turns inward. This is where Kendrick sits in therapy, removes the mask, and stares into the mirror. Indeed, the mirror is the album's central symbol. Just as each individual reflects humanity, the two halves of the record reflect one another. Each disc contains 9 tracks, balanced perfectly like two sides of a reflection. And like a real mirror, the reflection is reversed. If you reverse the order of disc 2, each song aligns with a counterpart on disc 1, creating a structural mirror image. For example, Worldwide Steppers reflects Mr. Morale. Rich Interlude mirrors Savior Interlude. N95 is a song about masks, while its reflection, Mother I Sober, is what happens when the masks come all the way off. And again, this structure is a direct expression of Tolle's teachings. The inner world of the individual and the outer world of humanity are inseparable reflections. Change one, and you change the other. Another of the album's central symbols is the mask, a representation of performance, the tap dancing, the people-pleasing, the curated image worn for external applause and approval. Together, masks and mirrors form another duality. The mask lets the ego perform, but once removed, we're confronted with the mirror, the truth of who we really are. Building on this theme of performance, Kendrick frames Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers itself as a stage play. Its two-disc structure functions like 2 acts. Act 1, The Big Steppers, is dominated by mass, social roles, and ego-driven performance, while Act 2, Mr. Morale, strips those masks away and forces the protagonist to face the mirror. Theater becomes a perfect metaphor for the performative aspects of our everyday lives Kendrick seeks to expose. Each of us adopting roles, following scripts of social consensus, and seeking applause. And given the title Mr. Morale, it's possible that Kendrick specifically staged the album as what's called a morality play, a popular form of medieval theater that dramatized the human struggle between virtue and vice through allegorical characters. Indeed, in Kendrick's morality play, each character represents something larger. Whitney, Kendrick's partner and mother of their 2 children, is the divine feminine, guiding Kendrick toward therapy and holding him accountable. Eckhart Tolle is the mentor or therapist, offering spiritual insights on the ego and pain body, representing the pure embodiment of the Mr. Morale side of the spectrum. Controversial rapper Kodak Black plays the other side of the spectrum, the big stepper, someone living unconsciously, heavily influenced by their extreme environmental conditioning, perpetuating generational cycles of trauma. And then there's Kendrick Lamar, who gives himself the moniker OK Llama, a name that means my people. As made explicitly clear in the Heart Part 5 music video, OK Llama is the everyman. He is both Big Stepper and Mr. Morale, a protagonist whose inner battle mirrors humanity's, striving toward conscious living but still gripped by unconscious compulsive addictions, unresolved trauma, and grief. Reinforcing the album's theatrical framework are the sounds of tap dancing on a theater stage that are heard throughout the album. Every mask we wear, every role we play is another step away from facing the mirror, facing what's real. Once the stage is set, Kendrick steps into the role of protagonist, OK Llama, and the story begins. Disc 1, The Big Steppers, focuses on the external world, painting a portrait of humanity caught in cycles of ego and trauma. Through OK Llama, Kendrick offers himself as both participant and mirror of this collective chaos. In the opening track, United in Grief, Kendrick confesses to masking his unresolved grief and trauma with materialism and sex. His sex addiction is framed as the fatal flaw that threatens the new family he's been building with Whitney. The song's personal refrain, I grieve different, is made universal by the song's end, when Kendrick declares, everybody grieve different. Together with the song's title, this reinforces the framework we've just outlined. OK Llama's individual journey reflects a universal one, a mirror of the human condition. N95 expands Kendrick's critique, exposing the mask society wears. He commands us to take it off again and again, stripping away wealth, status, politics, moral posturing, and curated online identities. Without those masks, who are we, really? The scope widens even further on track 3, Worldwide Steppers, a portrait of Tolle's idea of unconsciousness. Kendrick describes humanity as killers and walking zombies driven by ego and the pain body, always searching for the next fix and perpetuating cycles of violence, addiction, and hypocrisy. Crucially, he doesn't exempt himself from his own diagnosis, citing his own lust addiction as evidence. On Father Time, Kendrick traces his behavior back to its roots, showing how survival tactics are passed down generationally. In his household, stoic masculinity meant never showing weakness. Kendrick absorbed these codes, burying grief in destructive coping mechanisms like sex. By the song's end, Kendrick widens the lens again, revealing how these same codes reflect a culture of suppressed emotion that has trapped generations of men, a pressure especially potent in Black communities, where systemic racism, poverty, and violence have long branded vulnerability as a liability. This sets the stage for a rich interlude with Kodak Black, who reflects on growing up fatherless and poverty, hustling to survive from a young age. Once a victim of trauma himself, Kodak has also perpetuated it, most notably when he was accused of rape in 2016. His presence raises a central moral question. Do we condemn and exile Kodak outright, or recognize his violence as unresolved trauma while still holding space for accountability and healing? By giving Kodak such a prominent role, Kendrick forces us to wrestle with this moral ambiguity. Track 8, We Cry Together, dramatizes Eckhart Tolle's concept of the pain body, the accumulation of unprocessed trauma that feeds on conflict. A relationship argument spirals into emotional violence, each partner weaponizing old wounds to inflict new ones. Like Kodak's presence, it's uncomfortable by design, confronting us with what unresolved trauma actually sounds like. Whitney underscores this before the fight begins, saying, quote, "This is what the world sounds like," framing the song as a portrait of cycles of pain repeating across relationships, families, and communities. After the chaos of We Cry Together, the album pivots with Purple Hearts, the final song of Disc 1. Its title evokes medals for wounded soldiers, symbolizing big steppers scarred by trauma. Here at the album's midpoint, Purple Hearts anchors the project by centering God and divine love as the power greater than any vice or mask. Just as the two discs symbolically mirror each other, God here stands at the center of the album as the ultimate source of transformation. Propelled by God's love, Disc 2 opens with Count Me Out, framed as Session 10, Breakthrough. This is the moment Kendrick finally goes to therapy and admits he needs help. Crucially, he raps, "Wipe my ego, dodge my pride, look myself in the mirror." No longer running or tap dancing, the mask is exchanged for the mirror, and every track that follows is self-confrontation. On the next song, Crown, Kendrick confronts one of the heaviest masks he's worn, the crown of savior. In therapy, a breakthrough often comes through boundary setting, learning to recognize your limits and release the need to please everyone. And that's what Kendrick does here. He repeats, "I can't please everybody" like a mantra, rejecting the impossible weight of that role. On Savior, Kendrick reinforces his decision to remove the crown. He makes it brutally clear that celebrities are no better or worse than anyone else, that no one is exempt from the human condition. Kendrick demands we stop projecting salvation onto others and focus on saving ourselves. On Auntie Diaries, Kendrick turns inward to confront his history of prejudice and growth. He recounts his experiences with his transgender relatives using language that is intentionally clumsy and offensive. Rather than a polished tale of allyship, Kendrick exposes his own ignorance and its evolution into empathy. Like Kodak's presence earlier, the song confronts us with moral ambiguity, forcing us to hold space for harm done and the possibility of growth. Kendrick's therapy-guided transformation then continues with Mr. Morale. He describes a spiritual awakening, tapping into the conscious awareness Tolle teaches as the way to observe trauma without being consumed by it. Equipped with this clarity, he can now confront the generational pain at the album's heart, setting the stage for the reckoning of Mother I Sober, where he stares into the fractured mirror of himself. Scored by a plaintive piano, Kendrick relives childhood trauma in fragmented flashes. Images of his mother being physically abused and repeated questions about being molested surface alongside confessions of his sex addiction and the revelation that Whitney left him. Kendrick's breakthrough comes in the third verse, where he traces collective black trauma to its roots in slavery, then repeats "I set free" 7 times, freeing himself, his family, and even all abusers. Kendrick naming his pain and directly confronting its roots is the therapeutic reckoning that allows him to break a cycle of trauma that has plagued his family for generations. The song ends with Kendrick reuniting with Whitney and their children, who affirm Kendrick's transformation, crowning him with the moniker Mr. Morale. The family, once at risk of fracturing, has been restored. The album closes with Mirror, an epilogue that centers around the refrain, "I choose me, I'm sorry." After years of masks, ego, addiction, and savior complexes, Kendrick chooses authenticity. He accepts imperfection as part of the human condition. He embraces unconditional love as his guiding principle. And then he hands the mirror to each of us, one final reminder that OK Llama's journey is meant to be a reflection of our own. Kendrick Lamar is not our savior, but Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers offers a blueprint for anyone ready to confront the mirror and undergo the hard work of healing. And according to the album's philosophical framework inspired by Eckhart Tolle, our individual journey is more than personal. It's a powerful contribution to humanity, as healing the self is inseparable from healing the world. If you enjoyed today's masterclass, consider checking out the full 18-episode season of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, available to watch or listen on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We also have full audio seasons on Damn and To Pimp a Butterfly, as well as an entire back catalog of seasons on albums by Frank Ocean, Tyler the Creator, MF Doom, Mac Miller, and many more.